On the 29th of October 1970, in Boksburg, to the east of Johannesburg, South Africa, I was born and not left to die, but to make it good, like most babies that are brought into this world. On the same day, Nelson Mandela was already beginning his 9th year in prison since 1962, and then convicted for treason after the Rivonia trial in 1964, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. He and other political prisoners were incarcerated on Robben Island, a desolate island off the coast of Cape Town, for opposing apartheid. At the time, my father worked at a construction company, and my mother was a teacher. They were very poor. My only sibling, my brother Anton, was 3 years old when I was born. Because our parents were white, we were born to legal privilege. That was the way it was in South Africa in 1970. Even though my parents' family shared the same holiday destination every December, my parents only met in Boksburg once my mother was studying to become a teacher and my father was working in the postal service. My grandfather's family originated from French Huguenots who fled the south of France during the 1680s to escape the persecution of Protestants by the Catholic authorities. The La Grange family originated from a small town called Cabrières in the region of Avignon, a place I discovered and visited twice in the decades after my birth as a result of working for Nelson Mandela. My father was one of 2 siblings. Their parents lived in Mossel Bay, a coastal town along the picturesque garden route in the Cape Province. My grandmother's sister was the first qualified female pharmacist in South Africa, and up to this day the Schultz family own and run a reputable pharmacy in the town of Willowmore in the Eastern Cape. She was therefore quite an impressive woman, and someone we automatically looked up to as a result of her unique achievement. I was also very fond of my dad's father. His name was Anthony Michael, but we just called him Oupa Mike, Grandpa Mike. He used to visit us a few times a year, and then stay with us for a few weeks. He smoked the pipe, and the smell of smoke irritated us. He would sit on one particular chair and constantly wipe his hand on the armrest. His skin was old and cracked, and the tobacco from stuffing his pipe stuck in those cracks. When he left our home, the armrest was black, much to my mother's irritation, but nobody ever said he couldn't smoke in the house. My mother was the eldest of 3 siblings from the Strydom family. The only famous family with that surname was that of J.G. Strydom, the 6th Prime Minister of South Africa, who served between 1954 and 1958. He was succeeded by the father of apartheid, H.F. Verwoerd. When I learned as a child about a Strydom being Prime Minister, I convinced myself that we were somehow related, even though no real connection exists. My mother's father died in a motorcycle accident when my mother was only 12 years of age. I often asked my mother whether she recalled the night they received the news about her father's death. She has mostly avoided talking about it, but has said that she recalled being woken up by someone knocking on their front door and then hearing my grandmother crying hysterically. My grandmother had few options about the upbringing of her children. She had a clerical job at the South African Railways, and it was financially impossible for her to raise 3 small children by herself. She decided to send my mother, being the eldest, to an orphanage. The children's home was in Cape Town, which is why my mother still detests the city. For her, it stinks of abandonment. Ma only saw her siblings and my grandmother once a year during the December holidays. Both the La Grange and Strydom families camped in the same area close to Mossel Bay, called Hartenbos, during the December holidays, but they never knew about the other's existence. My mother's childhood memories are limited to suffering, neglect, sadness. The world was suffering the consequences of the Second World War, slowly recovering from the economic recession, and my mother, even as an Afrikaans child in the 1940s in South